Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Criss and I are so honored to be with you today to introduce you to Chicago Shakespeare's innovative new performance space, The Yard. Now, we're also thrilled to welcome all of you who are visitors to our city, especially now in 2019, which has been designated by the City of Chicago as the Year of Chicago Theater. Now, rising from a city of innovators and risk takers, Chicago theater is a hotbed of creativity and ingenuity. From big musicals and storefront plays to improv, the spirit of our city truly lives within the 200-plus theaters here. And it is this spirit that gave birth to Chicago Shakespeare Theater 30 years ago, when we staged our very first production on the rooftop of the Red Lion Pub on the city's north side. In 1999, we made a transformational move to Navy Pier and opened our first two theaters, a 200-seat black box space and a 500-seat Elizabethan thrust theater. And each of these spaces in their own ways really did explore the relationship between actor and audience. Now, with the move to our permanent home on Navy Pier, we began developing new plays, we began producing musicals and family programming, and we became Chicago's International Theater Festival, presenting productions from across the globe, and each year serving 40,000 students and teachers through our education programs. And as our programming expanded and as our theater practice developed, we recognized not only a need for more space, but also a different kind of space.
We began the process of imagining a new artistic platform, which could continue to evolve and accommodate not just the needs of artists of today, but the as of yet unknown needs of artists and of audiences of the future. Our growing need was for a large and flexible performance space, one which could house work from around the world and across theatrical genres, as well as inspire and support a new generation of artists. Throughout our process, we identified two key mandates for any potential development or expansion. The first, radical artistic flexibility. We knew that artists were yearning to develop increasingly complex and innovative projects not based in the traditional theatrical architecture of the past. They sought a redefined dialogue with space, which incorporated it not just as a platform for performance, but as an integral component of that performance. We were inspired by a new wave of site-specific and immersive work in non-traditional spaces. Our International World Stage series took work beyond the four walls of our theater, from a one-bedroom apartment to a military armory, from a Broadway-style playhouse to the city streets of Chicago, and from 100 feet in the air over Navy Pier to on the surface of the waters of Lake Michigan. We had a deep interest in the ability to continually redefine the relationship between the audience and the art. And for us, it was imperative to give our artists uncharted flexibility in how they get to craft that relationship. In our explorations, we found many examples of exotic, highly automated, and flexible theater architecture on which we might have based our project. But we soon realized that nearly all of them violated what would quickly become our second mandate.
At the time, the nation was just coming out of the 2008 economic downturn, and it was clear that if a building project for Chicago Shakespeare was going to be actionable, in addition to flexibility, we were going to have to establish a mandate of affordability and sustainability. Now, to best serve our mission, we needed to prioritize our resources and our energy from the inside out, focusing on how the space could first and foremost serve the artist and the audience, not necessarily the architect. We needed to design a space that would sustain us but not drain us. And then we were presented with an amazing opportunity, the chance to take over the underutilized Navy Pier Skyline stage, which is a tented outdoor concert venue directly adjacent to our existing two theaters. Now, we initially explored a wide range of design options for this expansion, but entirely new construction would have been unattainably expensive. And so, with our mandates front and center, we took an economically and environmentally sustainable approach, repurposing the elements of the underused Skyline stage and transforming it into a fully enclosed indoor theater. Now, we embraced the idea that the facade of a cultural institution didn't need to be expensive. It didn't need to be architecturally significant. In fact, its significance could come from the surprise of the experience found inside, from the excitement generated by reimagining and reinventing space, from a spirit of pop-up instead of permanence. Now, the decision to employ adaptive reuse as the architectural design of the yard reduced costs dramatically, making the project affordable. It was honestly less than half the cost of what new construction would have been. So our mandates, flexibility, affordability, and sustainability, challenged us to look at our available and existing assets not as limitations, but as opportunities. We could still work within a framework, but think way outside of the box.
With internationally renowned partners, Charcoal Blue, Adrian Smith Gordon Gill Architecture, and Bullion Andrews, we conceived a bold new theater design, a state of the imagination theater, sustainable, cost-conscious, and with radical flexibility for both our artists and for our audiences. Rather than demolishing the existing structure, we embraced both the opportunities and the challenges inherent in repurposing elements of Skyline Stage. The new building would be freestanding underneath the existing tent canopy. We retained the existing stage house and the backstage support spaces, thereby reducing the environmental impact of our build. So, under a tent, on a pier, over a parking garage, and sitting on a lake, we constructed a simple box. And within this box, if not a tried and true architectural construct, then what? What foundational tool would give us the ability to empower both the artists of today and of the future to build the best space for their art, whatever it might come to require? The towers. The magic lies in the towers. They are the heart and soul of the yard. Both deceptively simple and staggeringly complex, these massive and movable structures are each the size of a London double-decker bus stood on end, each weighing 35,000 pounds. Each tower houses about 50 seats across its 3 levels, with each level optimally tiered for sightlines. Additional modular main floor seating risers and custom-built stage decking complete each unique configuration. The yard can hold up to 850 seats, or as few as 150, and can be transformed into a myriad of theater geometries and volumes, including, to name a few, thrust, proscenium, theater in the round, traverse, cabaret, the list goes on. And already in the yard's brief existence, our artists have pushed us to create configurations that we had never envisioned in the design process. And that was the point. The yard is a shape-shifting black box theater on a massive scale. The movement of the towers is made possible by the repurposing of a tried and true aircaster technology. As opposed to inventing a high-tech and undoubtedly expensive means of moving these towers, these aircasters, which have been used for decades in industrial applications, allow us to float these 35,000-pound towers millimeters off the ground like a hovercraft and push them around the space with a small team of technicians. It's truly magical in its simplicity.
The yard redefines that traditional fixed relationship between actor and audience. So with each stage and each seating configuration, audiences experience the space anew every time they walk into the theater. And not only does the world on stage transform, but the world of the audience, what the audience inhabits, also transforms. And because we believe that every element of the theatrical experience can come alive, can become new as it is reimagined. The yard seats have a custom manufactured base that easily attach to tracks in all of the risers throughout the building. Now, this makes it possible for our crew to move seats in and out in a matter of minutes, whether that's between productions or even between performances. Once in its track, each seat can slide from side to side and move from front to back. Now, this makes it possible to compress seating or to space out the seats in the rows to add or reduce seating capacity in any configuration. We can tune each seat to the room for optimal sightlines And all of this flexibility gives us an amazing opportunity to create innovative capacity for accessible seating throughout the venue. And truly, it is the robust power of Tessitura that makes this constant changing of the seating locations and the number of seats in the room possible. And this flexibility allows us to best create an amazing experience for our audiences from the time they purchase their ticket to the time they attend the performance.
The building shell of the yard works like a mothership, fitted with docking stations at each level for the individual towers to connect into through a series of bridges. And the structure of the building really is simply that, a shell, inhabited by these 9 architectural marvels, constructed incidentally off-site by Show Canada of Montreal, which further reduced the length and subsequent costs of our design-build process. Each tower, in and of itself, is its own ecosystem, a fully equipped theatrical unit containing lighting and sound infrastructure, as well as heating, cooling, and fire protection for our audience's comfort and safety. Distributed around the room are utility panels, which through a series of flexible umbilicals supply the air, water, lighting, audio, video, and data central to the needs of our designs. The technological innovations of the yard continue into the lobby. Our south-facing lobby, as you'll experience this evening, showcases Chicago's fantastic skyline and is bombarded by sun for much of the year. Audiences leaving the theater are treated to both awe-inspiring views, but also the brilliance of the sun reflecting off of Lake Michigan. Our solution to this was the incorporation of sage glass, an electrochromic facade, which tints like transition sunglasses in response to the sun. In addition to allowing us to manage patron comfort, this extraordinary glass also reduces our energy costs and reduces our carbon footprint. Every single aspect of the yard's design, from the massive exterior tent structure to the individual panes of lobby glass, fully exemplify our priorities of flexibility and sustainability.
Now, all of the rigor and innovation during the design process of the yard has culminated in one of the most responsive theater venues in the world. And over the last 18 months, audiences have already had the opportunity to experience the broadest range of art inside the yard. From a full-scale pop concert performed by the ex-wives of King Henry VIII to a cabaret hip-hop reimagining of a Charles Dickens classic. From a French performance piece, which featured a whimsical ballet of colorful plastic bags floating through the yard's volume, to the gravity-defying stunts of a street circus troupe from Colombia. And later this season, we will welcome the Royal Shakespeare Company to perform in the yard on a stage that juts out into the room. And this will be the RSC's first return to Chicago in over a quarter century. The yard has already, in its brief life, accomplished more than we ever could have imagined. But you know, the real thrill of the yard is that all of that excitement and innovation of the design process didn't end on opening night. That night, we weren't just opening a theater. We were opening 20 theaters, 40 theaters, and more. Theaters which would only reveal themselves to us over time through the imaginations of artists and through the demands and desires of future audiences.
That's what we do in theater. We take dreams and we turn them into reality. And as we look back over our journey with the yard and to all of the new realities that's open to us, we're reminded of the power and the opportunity inherent in embracing challenges. The yard is not just a building, it's adjusted our perspective of being not just open to, but excited by the opportunities posed by limitations, with flexibility and sustainability as our touchstones in all that we aspire to. Building the yard has transformed not just where we make our work, but the how and the why of our entire creative process. Thank you for allowing us to share our story, and please come visit us at the yard sometime soon.